Welcome back. We're so glad you've joined us. I'm Annette, and I'm here with my co-host, Wendy. And this week we're focusing on that thought-provoking question where we're asking ourselves, are we as recovered as we really need to be? Because just because we're moving forward and we're functional, we may not be at our best still. And on Monday and Tuesday of this week, we looked at 2 symptoms that kind of tattletale on you. If you missed it, you may find it helpful to go back and listen to those 2 episodes after this one. But today we're going to be talking about what life is like when you can't find your passion, when your perspective feels lackluster and you're trudging through your days. All right, so let's unpack this a little bit here. Wendy, you want to kick off our conversation on what's going on with feeling lackluster and like we're trudging?
Pulled through life, or you can push through life. And if you feel like you're being pulled, that's usually because there's something in front of you that is enticing and you're excited and you
Yes.
want that thing, and it gets your energy up and your desire up and you look forward to moving in that direction. That's passion. That's inspiration, motivation, drive, conviction, excitement. That's all those things. The opposite of that is trudging, where you feel like you're pushing that cart uphill. You can't really see where you're going. You're behind the cart. You're pushing. All you know is you've got to put one foot next to the other, all the way pushing uphill, and it never gets any better. You don't
Right.
feel pulled towards anything. You don't really see where you're going. You're not excited about where you're going. You are literally trudging, pushing a cart uphill, and there isn't that sense of vision or motivation or excitement. It's just what you do.
Right. So it winds up being like a boring way to live. Like, who
Yeah.
wants to trudge through their days? Who wants to not feel inspired? And it's a lot of times it's not that inspiration isn't possible,
No.
that purpose isn't possible.
Mm-mm.
It's that we've lost our drive.
Yeah.
We've lost our motivation. There's like a wet blanket over everything for various reasons.
Mhm.
But the net result is that we're probably discouraged. We're very disheartened. We may be depressed. We may have given up. I hope not. But, if that kind of thing goes on long enough,
Yeah.
then we're just going through the motions. And we're certainly not operating in the manner in which God would have us live or think or be.
And what's tricky about this is you might be being pulled uphill or pushing that cart uphill. It might be the same hill. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're moving in the wrong direction or even necessarily doing the wrong thing. If you're feeling exhausted rather than crazy excited about something. But it is so much more fun and more energizing and easier to be excited and move in that direction than it is to feel like you're just pushing and hard slogging your way through it. So this isn't necessarily a sign you're doing the wrong thing in the wrong way. This could be it could be that too, obviously. You could be feeling like, no, ladder, wrong building scenario over and over and over. That's possible too. But this is that internal sense of just being exhausted and losing that sense of freedom and fun.
Yeah, we lose our want to with
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
And you said it was very interesting when you talked about the uphill, whether you're pushing something uphill or pulling some whatever. It's interesting to think about because when you're fired up about something, you're going to go take that hill.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the passion, it's the drive inside of us that makes us want to take that hill, to view it as a challenge instead of something that's overwhelming.
Yes.
To have a vision for something on the other side of that. Like all that is gone. All that is missing when we're in this mode. So what's some of these reasons why we get in this spot? You mentioned exhaustion. That's a big one. And exhaustion, that's secondary to something else that's going on, right?
Yeah,
You know?
there was this interesting thing that happened to me when I was first starting to practice as a therapist. I don't practice therapy anymore. I don't diagnose or treat specific mental illnesses at all anymore. But when I was training and doing that and had just started some of that, I remember asking one of my mentors and my supervisors, why is it that I'm seeing so many 40-year-old women. It was odd to me because
Mm,
I was allowed and able, based on training and work that I had done, to work with children as young as 4 and adults well into their 80s. And I had. But
hmm.
for some reason, there was this huge amount of women in their 40s who were coming in for depression and anxiety. And she
Interesting.
told me, well, that's when we run out. And I'm like, run
Wow.
out?
Uh-huh.
And she said, that's when you run out of just yourself. That's when you run out of just forcing yourself to do it and just trudging through your days. And eventually you can't do it anymore. And
Hmm.
you need to reach out and ask for help. And if you don't solve the problem, depression and anxiety are really common.
Right.
And that was so interesting to me that so many people were running out at the same ages. It's like there's only so much as finite human beings we
Hmm.
can do when we are pushing that cart uphill rather than being pulled by something.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons to run out, like you're running on adrenaline, you're running
Hmm.
on your will alone, you're running on sheer stubbornness, right? There's a lot of cart uphill pushing you can do until you can't.
Right.
And so it's a very common thing to just force your way through life, especially a lot of the women we talk to. They're
Hmm.
amazing. Narcissists, especially if you meet them as adults and they're bosses or spouses or someone trying to date you, they don't
Hmm.
go for people who don't have anything going for them, right?
Right.
They
Right.
go for smart, accomplished, hardworking people
Hmm.
with a lot of things in their life because they're looking to exploit those things and use them for their own purposes.
Right.
And so those people are incredibly capable of pushing a cart uphill longer than anybody else and
Hmm.
harder than anybody else. But eventually, all of us, it doesn't matter who we are, all of us run out.
Right. Right. And even in a best case scenario, without a
Hmm.
narcissist in our life, we can
Hmm.
run out.
Oh,
But
yeah.
overlay a narcissist on that, and I mean, that just drains your tank
Hmm.
faster than so many other things in life.
Well,
And
the narcissist adds a history of abuse and
yes,
gaslighting and self-doubt. All of
right.
us can get there, and you don't
Right.
need a narcissist in your background. And obviously, if you've had any type of abuse in your background, it's
Hmm.
harder. Or if you came from a family that simply didn't have all the tools that you would need as an
Hmm.
adult, and you weren't able to fill in those gaps on your own with mentors or self-learning.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a very common, sadly, it's a very common thing.
It is. It is. And it's tragic because
Hmm.
in that moment we tend to like give up on dreams or sometimes
Hmm.
even a belief that things could be different.
Hmm.
And when you've been with a narcissist for so long, sometimes just being away from the immediate in your face of the
Yeah.
narc's tactics, we'll settle for that being good enough. And we're here
Hmm.
to say, like, you listening to us, we're challenging you to say that's not good enough. That's
No,
not what God has for you.
no.
And I can say this, in myself and with women I've worked with, and you mentioned about the 40s, that's when we run out. So
Hmm.
true. But the flip side of that is that's also when we find ourselves.
There is so much
Hmm.
power that is available to you at that age simply because you have learned a lot and you've gone through a lot and you're
Hmm.
learning a lot about yourself and the world and how it works. And if you've been walking with God for a while, He has been taking our hearts of stone and turning them into clay and
Right.
walking ahead of us and making a path for us to walk in. And there can be so much good and so much beauty and so much hope and
Hmm.
just so much amazing things that can happen for us and through us at that age.
Right.
It it's a tragedy to be behind the cart rather than being pulled up the mountain. It really
Yes.
is.
For sure, for sure. So this whole concept that we've talked about just a little bit here, passion really does fuel you.
Hmm.
Purpose fuels you. It gives you vision,
Hmm.
to move forward in your life. And without it, we're just living small.
Yeah.
And when we're living small, it does not honor God, it doesn't
Hmm.
honor you, it doesn't honor anybody else. All
Mm-mm.
right, so Wendy, what would you suggest that our lovely ladies joining us this morning, what should they do?
Okay,
What's the
so
next step?
some of them are going to be annoyed at me at this point, because I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying. The
Uh-huh.
first step is you always have to figure out what the actual problem is before you can throw the resources
Mm-hmm.
and the experiments at it to try to solve it. And you don't want to guess, you want to actually observe. So
Mm-hmm.
just like we've been saying in this previous series on Monday and Tuesday, you want to look at yourself and start going, when did I feel like I was behind the cart? When was I trudging? When was I forcing it? When was I pushing?
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're not looking for beautiful prose or perfect grammar or even complete
Right.
sentences. We're just looking for notes of this happened, I was thinking this. This happened, I felt that. This happened, I was exhausted, overwhelmed, frustrated,
Right.
passionless. And on
Right.
the flip side, hopefully there's other things you could say, I was so excited when I was doing this. I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling so motivated and so pulled toward the top of that mountain and felt like I was walking in what God had for me and doing all these amazing things. Take note of that too,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to start noticing the difference of when you felt fueled by passion and being pulled and when you felt like you were just trudging and pushing that cart and writing down what those situations were.
Right. Right. And I agree with everything you said. Especially, I just want to reemphasize this point, the story that you're telling yourself
Mhm.
when this is happening. Like
Yes.
when you're faced with an opportunity, when you think about a goal and then you're like, "Ugh, I can't even go there." Like, what's the story you're telling yourself about that? Because that becomes habitual after a while. And when we adopt that way of thinking, it just grows. It doesn't
Well,
get, held to this one
no.
little area. It starts to
Well,
expand and overflow
yeah.
into everything.
Well, a great page to, if you're writing this thing down or these types of things down in a notebook or even a note app on your phone is to say, what exciting thing did I shut down because I'm tired?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah, for
Like,
sure.
where did I go? Not today. I just can't.
Oh, this is good. This is
Yeah.
good, ladies. We're hoping that you're taking this to heart and you're making some of these observations.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, we're going to talk about symptom number 4, which is being wound too tight. So, for today, we want you to focus on this. We want to encourage you to partner with God, make Him a part of what you're doing each day. And instead of having a negative expectation, which tends to accompany the symptom that we're talking about today, instead, dare to expect to see God show up and do immeasurably more than you could ask or hope for. To know that He's here with you in this journey. And we're here with you too, to provide some guidance and wisdom and challenge to grow and become the woman that you're meant to be. So focus today on that 1% better and let that be cumulative. You don't have to completely transform yourself this week. Just be 1% better. That's all it is. If you're listening to us on the podcast, then you can check the show notes and you'll see a link where you can text us. We'd love to hear from you, what you think about this episode, any questions that you have. We'd like to chat with you. If you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, then check the show notes for a link that you can email us at hello@AnnetteChesney.com. Also, you know the drill. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode so it gets out in front of other people that can help them, encourage them. Be sure to look for some other links that you'll find to additional resources that, because we have new things coming out all the time. Wendy and I were just talking before we were recording about some new things that were in development. We want to tell you to keep going, keep taking the next right step, because your best is yet to come. We'll see you tomorrow.